Audrey's watching it? Not back now. Am I on? Is it on me though? I'm still live.
third annual Golden State Invitational here in Madera, California. Just about to get things rolling here tonight. We got double track action coming at you, and it's going to be a good one here as we get tonight's action underway here tonight. Double track action here at the beautiful Madera Speedway here tonight. As we will have here tonight over on our grandstand track here tonight. We're going to have the light modified tractors over here on the infield side. We will have the 12,000-pound hot farm tractors coming at you here tonight. So going to be an outstanding program here, and we're going to bring it to you all live here on Full Pull Live here as we start to wind down the live events schedule here for 2024, the final event on our schedule. As we will have our 12,000-pound hot farm tractors up here first here in our competition here tonight. So we'll get those out on the track. Looks like we got about 80 hooks here when it's all said and done for all the competitors we're going to see go down the track here tonight, as we'll call to the line our first competitor here tonight in our hot farm class. So it looks like we're going to have pull to apply. Going to be William Bailey, going to be our test puller here over on the 12,000-pound hot farm side. Looks like we got 3 entries ready to go here tonight as we get tonight's action underway over here on the infield track. So once again, Full Pull Live coming to you right here from Madera, California here as we take a look at the Massey Ferguson down there, V8 Perkins underneath the hood of this tractor. This is the Golden State Invitational. Had to be invited to run here this weekend at this event. The Massey Ferguson 1150 as he gets ready to go here tonight in our 12,000-pound hot farm class here tonight. Here we go. All right, so a good run for the Massey of William Bailey. Pull to apply is the name of this tractor here. 12,000-pound hot farm tractors. Now, he will have that decision whether or not he's going to take or turn down this run. So we'll have the California Haymaker going to be up next here. That's going to be John Spielman. And then the White Claw of Brad Griffin, our third and final competitor here in the hot farm class. So we'll take a look here on the replay. We'll take a look from the grandstand side over here at Madera, California, as we see the Massey Ferguson making its way down the track here. All right, so our second competitor here up next in our hot farm class, going to be John Spielman, the California Haymaker. Over here on the grandstand side, we've got our first light modified tractor, 6,000-pound light modified tractors. This is the handful tractor of Bob Branco Jr. Here we go. All right, so Bob Branco Jr. with the handful tractor makes his test run here tonight. Light modified tractor, 6,000 pounds. As we see here on the replay, got that front end up. Now we're going to see a mix of different tractors here in this class here tonight. We've got some naturally aspirated engines. We've also got some aircraft horsepower, and we've got blown engines as well. So a little bit of everything out here, running here on the MLM Motorsports circuit here tonight. So they'll be running on the Terminator Red Sled here tonight. As we go back over to the hot farm side, we've got the California Haymaker, good-looking white tractor here. As we'll have, it looks like John Spielman going to be up next here. All right, here we go. So they tell me this was the White Claw tractor. Going to be the White Claw here tonight. And that is going to be Brad Griffin. Brad Griffin here on the replay. Take a look at that wild ride right there. Got that front end up, slammed it back down, came back around here. And made a real nice run here in our 12,000-pound hot farm class. So that will bring us up here to the California Haymaker as we'll bounce things back over here to the light modified side and light it up. White Lightning, going to be Matt Lenfelder, a longtime runner here in the light modified class here in the state of California. The White Lightning tractor as he makes his way to the start line here. So our second of our modified tractors is we're just waiting to get some distances here for our classes here tonight. So the White Lightning and Matt Lenfelder backing in that turbine entry. So this is our first tractor. We're going to take a look at aircraft horsepower here tonight. So we'll see what the turbines got for us here tonight. Going to be followed by, looks like Garrett Forbes with the Lost Cause will be our next tractor up here over on the light modified side. So slack out of the chain as we get ready to go. Over on the grandstand side, light modifieds running 6,000 pounds. Maximum weight of these tractors. All right, so White Lightning as he makes his run here tonight over on the grandstand track here tonight. Matt Lenfelder with the White Lightning here. Okay, so they tell us we're going to move on. Now, here in this next class here, we got 8,500-pound hot farm tractors. Going to be the ornery deer of Kevin Lucas, this John Deere 4030. Now, this is the only tractor in this class here tonight in our 8,500-pound hot farm. So it looks like in our 12,000-pound hot farm class, we'll get the distances in here for you. Just a little bit here, having some technical difficulties as we'll get the distances in here. But Kevin Lucas, the ornery deer, going to be up next here as White Lightning flames it up a little bit after his run here tonight. So here comes the ornery deer, and this is Kevin Lucas, 8,500-pound hot farms, only tractor in this class. Well, Kevin would like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. And he said, talking to him this afternoon, says, hey, we're having a little bit of trouble with the rules in this class and everybody running. He says, hey, I just want to go out and pull tractors. So the ornery deer, good to have him here, that John Deere 4030, as we'll see here on the replay as he makes his run here tonight in our 8,500-pound hot farm class, the only one that we have got here tonight. Once again, the Golden State Invitational here in Madera, California, the third annual event. As we see Kevin Lucan make his run here tonight, Kevin Lucas with the ornery deer. So back over here to the light modified side as we will have, looks like the Lost Cause tractor. This is going to be Garrett Forbes as our first look at an Allison here tonight. So we told you you're going to see some variety, and we have got it here tonight. So Garrett purchased this tractor a couple years back, twin turbocharged Allison aircraft engine here. So we saw the naturally aspirated engine make his run here tonight. We also saw a turbine make his run. Now it's time for the Allison here tonight in our light modified class. Once again, 6,000 pounds. Here we go. Whoa, wheels up. Oh, hang on to it. Hang on to it. Garrett's going to be disqualified, fans. You saw him get over to that right side. And, man, light on the nose with that tractor. As we'll see here on the replay, take a look. That front end comes up in the air, and it was off to the races as it pulled hard to the right side here. And at that point right there, he was just hanging on. Now was touching that brake a little bit, looked like. You could see sitting in the cab there. But right there, hit that white line and will be disqualified here tonight. For Garrett Forbes here tonight in the lost cause entry. So we'll go back over to the modified side as we have got a truck that needs no introduction to the sport of four-wheel drive truck pulling. As we see the Wild Hare Dodge Dakota. Now this truck for so many years owned by Dan Coelho out of Turlock, California. Well, his son-in-law has taken over the driving of this truck now, and that's Gary Fernandez with the Wild Hare Dodge Dakota. For so many years, the Wild Hare ran on the old SRO circuit. We saw it run out in Bowling Green, Ohio quite a few times. As Dan would come out, run that event, Chapel Hill, Tennessee, some of the events out east. So we'll be our test puller up in our Pro Modified class here tonight. 6,200 pounds maximum weight of these trucks. They do not have a cubic inch limit here in the state of California. So here comes the Wild Hare. So we'll see what the distance comes up here for the Wild Hare and Gary Fernandez as he gets things rolling here tonight in our four-wheel drive class here tonight. All right, so pull distance for the Wild Hare here tonight for Gary Fernandez comes up at 2:59 and 48. 2:59 and 48. So we will see whether or not Gary is happy with that run. As here we go, light modifieds. Well, no doubt about it. The Tasmanian Devil here tonight as Steve Melanesia lays down an excellent run right there. 396.12 here in our light modified class here tonight. And we'll see whether or not Gary was happy with that run here in the four-wheel drive class. So Steve Melanesia over here in the light modified class goes out 396 and change. We just had a quick word with Gary Fernandez with the Wild Hair truck. He says he's going to turn down that run of 259 and 48. 48, and we'll turn that down and come back last in the class. So moving along here in our Pro Modified classes, we'll have the Show No Mercy. This is going to be Doug Bradshaw, going to be our next puller up here in a very tough field of 11 of the modified four-wheel drives here tonight. So Doug Bradshaw, 1972 Ford, 648 cubic inch Ford Hemi underneath the hood of this truck. He calls it the Show No Mercy. Came to Pro Modified pulling via Super Stock pulling, and I've been running here in the modified class since 2018. So this will set our first official distance here in the four-wheel drive class. So here we go. All right, ran it down the left-hand side of the track here tonight. Good run for the truck here, Doug Bradshaw. Show No Mercy as he sets our first official four-wheel drive. Quick inch limit. As we see here on the replay, work that left side of the track here. So 300.41 the distance, 300.41 for Doug Bradshaw here tonight. As we will bounce things back over to the light modified side, we should have the Mustang Legacy, Brandon Forgy, going to be up next here, and then we've got the bailout of Mark Zans, going to be our final competitor. All right, so here we go, the Mustang Legacy, Brandon Forgy. Once again, Allison Power, 86 and change for Steve Mel. And we'll see if we can have a word here with Steve in just a little bit. But first, we'll run the Mustang tractor. Of course, the Mustang Legacy follows the P-51 Mustangs. Back in World War II, that's where these Allisons had been so prominent. Of course, after the war, they found their way into the scrap yards across North America, and the boat racers, the unlimited hydroplane runners, had used them for many, many years, and then tractor pullers found them, and of course, they were big time in the pulling sport until the all-aluminum engines came out, the V8s, kind of put them on the back burner. All right, so the Allison here tonight, the Mustang Legacy here in our light modified class here tonight. So just one more tractor to go here, and should be the bailout tractor of Mark Zans here tonight. Once again, another Allison. So real good run here, as we'll see here on the replay, as the Allison goes 283.51. So good enough right now for that number two spot at 283.51 here in our modified class, light modifieds. As we go back over the four-wheel drive side, we've got the first of the Reeves trucks, as we should have the going to be the final drive entry. This is Donnie Reeve himself doing the driving. 2022 F350, 648 cubic inches. Now the Reeves family, you're going to see 3 generations of pulling, as this is Dad out here once again. Dan Mayer joining you here in Madera, California, as we get ready to go four-wheel driving. All right, these four-wheel drive competitors really tough sledding out there, trying to get hooked up to this class, or this track here tonight. As Donnie Reeve makes his run here in his 2022 Ford F350, he calls the final drive. And we'll see here on the replay, distance comes in at 287 and 78. 287 and 78 here tonight. So good enough right now for that number 2 spot here in four-wheel drive. So we'll see we'll get our leaderboard up here in just a little bit, as we'll have the bailout tractor, another Allison machine here tonight. So there we see Mark Zons with the Pulling for America, the bailout tractor. Once again, 1,710 cubic inches Allison aircraft engine for power in this light modified class. Our leader, the Tasmanian Devil, and Steve Melanesia, he is way out front at 396 and change. As we wind down the 6,000-pound light modified class, we'll have the work stock. Diesel trucks will be our next class over on the grandstand side, as we get ready to go with the Allison. And a nice run for the Allison here tonight. Got to be right about that 300-foot mark here, as they're kind of battling here for that number 2 spot. As we just saw the Mustang Legacy go 287 and change. As we see here on the replay, look like the weight set just about right there. Yeah, 303.24 the distance. Number 2 spot, 303.24 for the Allison entry here tonight. And we are going to sign off of Facebook here for those fans that are watching on Facebook as well as YouTube. We are going to say goodbye to you. You can get us, make sure you tune in to Full Pull Live. $39.99 will get you this event as well as tomorrow's action as well. For those fans that are watching on Facebook as well as YouTube, we will say goodbye to you. And make sure you do sign up to Full Pull Live for more great action here as we go back four-wheel drive side. We got the Baby Huey truck, as this is Chris Daniels. Good-looking old-school Ford here, 1965 Ford. Another one of the trucks that came out to the Pullers Championship this past summer. So Baby Huey on the start line here, modified four-wheel drive side. 11 in the class here tonight. So Baby Huey, the 65 Ford, well, he went over to the right-hand side here tonight, trying something a little bit different here. As keeping the show moving fast-paced here tonight, Baby Huey. As we'll get a leaderboard up here for our four-wheel drive class as we 3 trucks in here. So Chris Daniels, we see working that left side, then let it drift right to that right-hand sideline. Seen some of the competitors, well, looking at the track earlier before the show started. And they kind of said that right side of the track was a little bit on the soft side. So 291.15, 291.15 for Baby Huey. We'll start a new class over on the grandstand side here as we'll have the work stock. Diesel trucks going to be up next here. This is going to be the Silver Bullet. And going to be Dean Anring, going to be our test puller up here. Work stock trucks, 2.5 on the turbocharger. Once again, you're taking a look at the work stock trucks here tonight. Now we will also have the Limited Pro diesel trucks out as well as the Pro Stock. It's a little bit later on, but here come the work stockers. And an excellent run right there to get us started here. The Silver Bullet entry of Dean Anring. And I'd have to say he's probably going to be well satisfied with that one. As we'll get the distance in here for him. Yeah, take a look at the ground speed that he was getting out there. Yeah, he was getting after it. Good run as our test puller here in work stock. But, well, there's a truck that needs no introduction here to the sport of pulling here in California. The Yellow Fever, owned by the Massetti family for so many years. Dad Jim Massetti started way back in the late 70s, early 80s. That 1941 Dodge Power Wagon. So James Massetti going to be doing the driving here. Once again, Madera, California, session number 1 here of the Golden State Invitational. We've got Pro Modified 4-wheel drives working the left track here tonight, as well as the right side. We've got the work stock trucks over there. So 4-wheel drives all around here as we get a head-on shot there, that 41 Dodge Power Wagon of the Massetti family. So the Yellow Fever gets ready to go to work here tonight. James Massetti leading the charge here with the Yellow Fever truck. Bit of a worm's eye view right there. The Yellow Fever. Here we go. And a good run right there. Yellow Fever. James Massetti. As we'll see here on the replay, right down the center of the track where he spotted the sled, 294.49 the distance, 294.49 for the Yellow Fever here tonight. So that will put him in the number 2 spot as we go back to the work stock side. As we've got, looks like Kevin Vieira up next here. Come and get it. Dodge entry here. So work stock competition over here on the grandstand side. We've got 6 entries in that class. All right, puts the window up. It's ready to go to business here tonight. Kevin Vieira here in work stock. So come and get it. Working the left side of the track over on the work stock side here tonight. Chasing after that silver bullet of Dean Amring. He does 290.76, 290.76, which will put him in the number 2 spot here currently for Kevin Vieira. 290 and 76. So still chasing that silver bullet. We go back over to the four-wheel drive side once again. Dan Mayer joining me here at Full Live. We're right here in the action here at Madera Speedway down at the end of the track. Double track action here as we take a look at that good-looking 1972 Chevrolet. Back it in. As this is going to be Garrett Reeve and the triple throwdown truck. Now Garrett was voted the Rookie of the Year here on the MLM circuit out here in California. Just this past afternoon was given that trophy. Now Garrett only 16 years of age. Now we told you you're going to see 3 generations of the Reeve family. This is the 3rd generation right here. Over the track here tonight as we see those red lights glaring there at the end of his run. Here on the replay, really kind of working that middle part of the track here. 295 and 15. 295 and 15 for the triple throwdown. As we see our leaderboard right there, the Show No Mercy lead the way here in four-wheel drive competition, 300.41. That is Doug Bradshaw. With that forward. Back over to the work stock side, and we'll have the DSS match. Chris Rodriguez, our next puller up here in our work stock diesel truck class here tonight. DSS Max right here. Gonna work that left side. Here comes the Chevrolet. I do believe going to be shy of that silver bullet here tonight. An excellent run here for the DSS Max truck here tonight. Chris Rodriguez, as we get the distance in here for the Chevrolet. So 306 and 55 the distance, 306.55. So that will put him in the number 2 spot right now. 306 and 55 for DSS Max. So we'll have the hood rapid reloaded truck. Bryson Prock, and then one bad habit of Cody Fagg will be our next 2 trucks over on the work stock side as we've got Larry Lopes with the Young Guns truck. This is 1978 Dodge. 658 cubic inches underneath the hood. Once again, we told you no cubic inch limit out here in the state of California. Larry, a long-time puller here with this particular truck here in the state of California. Actually, it's got a really cool 1948 Dodge hauler that he brings the truck to the pulling events in. Kind of gifted to him through his dad. And beautiful, beautiful looking 48 Dodge. But here we go. Let's take a look at the 78 Dodge here tonight. As they're all chasing that Ford here tonight. All right, so Larry Lopes there in the 78 Dodge. He calls the Young Guns. Work that left side of the track here. Don't think he got the job done there. Yeah, 284 and 67 the distance. 284.67. So good enough right now for the number 6 spot as we'll place him in the field. So 300.41. The mark to beat over on the four-wheel drive side. We've got the Hood Rat Reloaded coming out next here. As this is going to be Bryson Prock as he makes his way to the start line here in our work stock diesel truck class here tonight.
We're going to have you try this because you sound like...
The Hood Rat Reloaded. Bryson Prock coming to us next, the GMC product. Work stock diesel truck class here tonight. So 6 entries in our work stock diesel truck class here tonight. Once again, 8,000 pounds will be the maximum weight of these trucks. Here we go. Oh, the Hood Rat Reloaded running out of power here tonight with that GMC.
We're going to try something real quick. So will you use this real quick and just see if it...
Do you want me to talk in both of them? So the Hood Rat Reloaded here, Bryson Prock, 255 and change here, 255 and change. So there we see the Silver Bullet at 326.93. 326 and 93, the mark to beat here.
It's not working.
Okay. So the Silver Bullet leads the way in our work stock diesel truck class, 326 and 93. And that tough running Silver Bullet there of Dean Anrig leads the way, 306.55, DSS Max number 2, and the Come and Get It sits in that number 3 spot. So moving along here, we've got modified four-wheel drive competition here as we'll bounce things over here to the infield track as we should have the chain reaction. Good run right there, the chain reaction team, the Freitas team, all chasing that 300.41 here tonight. 300.41 is our mark to beat here, modified four-wheel drive side. So we've only got, looks like, well, we got 4 more competitors left to go here as A.J. Freitas makes his run here tonight with the chain reaction. At 293 and 39. So 293 and 39. So we'll put him in the number 4 spot here. Very close class of modified four-wheel drives here tonight, here for the Golden State Invitational. Show no mercy, 300.41. They're all chasing that Ford with that shotgun Hemi as we see some of our next class, the modified class, as we're back over here on the work stock side. One bad habit And this is Cody Fagg. As the One Bad Habit GMC digs in here. So just a couple more trucks here to go as still chasing that Silver Bullet, 326 and 93. A really good run for the Dodge. He set the mark here early in our class. So 273.90 for Cody here tonight with the One Bad Habit GMC. Put him in the number 4 spot, 273.90. So a great crowd coming out here tonight. Session number 1 here at the Golden State Invitational. As we see Cody's One Bad Habit, number 4 spot there, 273.90. But all chasing that Silver Bullet. He's got about a 20-foot lead over number 2 here, the DSS Max entry of Chris Rodriguez. So back over modified four-wheel drive side. Here comes the Intimidator, 1965 Ford. Dave Vienendahl with the Intimidator. Look at that 65 Ford. All kinds of good looking old school entries here out here in California. So Dave Vienendahl and the 65 Ford here tonight. Limited Pro diesel trucks will follow the Pro Modified trucks over here on the infield side. And then over on the grandstand side, we'll have the Super Modified two-wheel drives. Will follow up the work stock trucks here at the conclusion of their classes. We keep the pulling action coming to you hot and heavy here tonight from the Golden State Invitational here at Madera Speedway, just outside of Fresno, California. So Dave Vienendahl going to park that Intimidator way over there on the right-hand chalk line. All chasing that 300.41. Well, Ford leads the way. The 72, let's see if the 65 can get him. All right, digging in. Good run there for the Intimidator Ford. So we'll see here on the replay, working that extreme right side of the track here tonight in modified four-wheel drive competition. Saw a little bit of a hop there at the end of his run, but looks like going to be awful close to taking over that number 1 spot. Right about that 300-foot mark there. So there you go, fans. We have got a new leader, the Intimidator. Dave Vienendahl goes into that number 1 spot with a run of 3:03 and change here. So the 65, well, Ford's sitting 1 and 2 right now. Good class here of Pro Modified four-wheel drives as we are down to the last-minute hooker here. Wade Bradshaw with his Chevrolet, going to be our final truck here in our work stock truck class here tonight. The diesel trucks, Wade Bradshaw. 326.93, the mark to beat here, 326 and 93. Taking a good shot there of the last-minute hooker on the start line here. So our final truck, work stock diesel truck class here tonight. So it looks like a good run here for Wade Bradshaw. Wade Bradshaw with his last-minute hooker ride, but not going to get the Silver Bullet here tonight. Silver Bullet going to be our winner here, session number 1 here at Madera Speedway, the Golden State Invitational, as he will take that number 1 spot. There we see on the replay more or less working that middle to left of center out there in our grandstand track there. You see the Terminator sled, the old decision maker sled. Logan Thomas actually up there in the farewell operating that sled here tonight. All right, so John Bohr and the Code 3 up next here. As John makes his way here, 62 Dodge, 572 cubic inches underneath the hood. Currently sits number 3 here in the MLM points. A volunteer fire chief during the week, puller on the weekend. Here we go. All right, Code 3, the 62 Dodge, got the lights going and everything out there. Looking cool for John Bohr here. So 287 and 91, 287 and 91 for John Bohr here tonight. Put him back in that number 7 spot. There, well, we've got the Silver Bullet on the screen there. That was our winner in our work stock class here tonight. As we take a look there at the Intimidator. All right, so it looks like, looks like the Silver Bullet coming back here. So possibly we made a sled change, I would have to say. So Dean Anring with the Silver Bullet truck. This is the Dodge. All right, so that must be the case here. So the Silver Bullet, Dean Anring, first time around, he went out 326. All right, well, this is going to tighten things up here. Just when we thought he had a 20-foot lead over everybody else, he comes out here and we'll finish off the class officially here at the Golden State Invitational. With our cameraman right there, a little close. Getting in on the action there. So Dean Anring goes 287.91, so will not be our winner here tonight. So the DSS Max truck going to be our winner here tonight. So congratulations to Chris Rodriguez. Chris Rodriguez with the DSS Max, as we'll see his replay run here tonight, the Chevrolet, as he makes his run here tonight and will win session number 1 here of the Golden State Invitational. As we go back, well, this is the 3rd of the Reeves entries here tonight, as this is going to be Spike Reeve doing the driving of the truck that's called Rags 1984 Ford. So this is generation number 2. Spotting the sled right down the center. Here we go. No shortage of horsepower, that's for sure. Definitely making all kinds of horsepower here tonight. But So he's got to go better than 3:03 and change to take over that number 1 spot here. Spike Reeve and the Rags truck. And he'll go 298.02. Good enough right now for the number 3 spot. 298.02 for Spike Reeve and the Rags Ford. We see right there a little zig, a little zag over to the right side of the track. Going to cost him just a little bit in the distance here. So 3:03.53. The Intimidator Ford leads the way here. Show No Mercy number 2 at 341, and then the Rags number 3 at 298.02. Great class of 4-wheel drives here. As we've got one left to go, and that is the old Wild Hair. And Gary Fernandez. Once again, Dan Mayer joining you here, Full Pull Live, here in Madera, California, here for the Golden State Invitational Tractor and Truck Pull. As they're moving along hot and heavy here tonight, keeping the show going. As we will now make our way here to the Wild Hair and Gary Fernandez. I would have to imagine made a sled change on the 4-wheel drive side because we're way out over that 300-foot mark here. Well, not a whole lot over 300, but Gary Fernandez was right about that 250 mark, if I remember right. 250 or so. So making a change over on the grandstand track here as we'll get ready to go with our super modified 2-wheel drive competitors. As we take a look, most of these competitors, well, we've got a couple, one coming out of Washington. We've got another one coming out of the state, a couple out of the state of Idaho. Now, this is not over here. We've got Dave Vienendahl, but that is not official, because we do have the Wild Hair coming back. He is coming back here to the start line. So we will see the Wild Hair and Gary Fernandez, our final truck here in 4-wheel drive competition. Was our test puller. So we'll see if the Dodge Dakota bodied machine can get the job done here. Gary down there at the end of the track. Ready to make his run here tonight. So super modified 4-wheel drives. We've got one of the trucks out of California. That's Brant Sullivan's truck. Then we've got a truck out of Washington here tonight. Washington State, Eastern Washington, they told me. And that is the lowlife truck of Dana Seitzma. She's going to be our test puller as Dana makes her way out on the track here. Dana, young lady. First time behind the wheel of super modified 2-wheel drive. Her dad's got a 4-engine modified we're going to be seeing a little bit later on here. See Dad down there checking things out as Dana will fire up the low-life truck here. Kind of a roadster body. There we see the crew chief on the team. So 6,200 pound super modified 2-wheel drive trucks is there. We see the Wild Hair backing in here of Gary Fernandez, our final truck in pro modified 4-wheel drive competition here tonight. So is the Intimidator going to hold him off here? The Ford leads the way. The Dodge going after him here. The 65 Ford of Dave Vienendahl, the Intimidator. That great run of 3:03.53. That is the mark to beat on the modified 4-wheel drive side. Wild Hair, you never count out the Wild Hair. As you see on the fender, Dan Coelho. Of course, Coelho in Portuguese means rabbit. That's where that all comes from. Just many years ago when Dan Coelho drove the truck, he used to, at the end of his run, would take out the old stuffed rabbit and wave it to the crowd. So we will see here what the distance comes up here for Gary Fernandez. with the Wild Hair truck here tonight, the Dakota body. So once again, watching here on Full Pull Live as bringing you all the action here. So 297 and 13 we see on the big screen there. 297 and 13 for the Wild Hair, Gary Fernandez, as he will bring the class to a close here tonight, our Pro Modified class, as we've got, well, we're going Super Modified two-wheel drive pulling here. As we've got young Dana Seitzma out of Eastern Washington here tonight with the Low Life Revenge truck. As we said earlier, Dad will be out a little bit later on with his 4-engine modified tractor here in great class of the big mods here tonight. We've got 8 of them, but we've also got the 2-engine class, which is going to be running here in just a little bit as well. So here comes young Dana, our test puller here in Super Modified two-wheel drive, as she will get things started here tonight. Oh, man, that's a tough break right at the hit. And she puts her hands up, and she was going after it here tonight, but we see the crew down there looking things over, but yeah, it looks like the fuel pump there on the front of the engine. Got our camera crew taking a look down there, and we see the mag moving around over there. We got all kinds of issues there on the front of the Low Life Revenge truck. 87.21 for Dana Seitzma, so they're going to take that truck back to the pits here, and we'll see. But there's only 4 trucks here in Super Modified two-wheel drive competition. A class kind of making its way back here to the state of California, as we see here on the replay. As young Dana gets after it here, and just right there you see engine not happy, the mag moving around there. And so back over here, we're going to start the Limited Pro Stock diesel trucks, 8,000 pounds. Very popular class from coast to coast, as we've got the American Addiction. Keith Powell, he's going to get things started. He'll be our test puller. Great class of 9 of these Limited Pro diesel trucks. As you see on the side of that truck, Hazley Machine. How many times did we see that last weekend down in Diesels and Dark Corners? And speaking of which, we've got a story from down there as well. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on here. But here we go. Keith Powell going to get us started here. 8,000-pound Limited Pro diesel trucks. The 3.0 trucks, as they're known from coast to coast. So new class over here on the infield side. Limited Pro diesel trucks, the modified 4-wheel drives. Let's see if we can bring up after this run here, if we can bring up our top 5 finishers here in modified 4-wheel drive competition. But first things first, we got the American Addiction Dodge on the starting line. So we will see. Now, this is the big decision here for Keith Powell here tonight, whether or not he's going to take that run. He'll have to make that decision before he pulls away here from the sled. So 322 and 73. 322 and 73 here on the Limited Pro diesel truck side. So we'll get us started here. And we will see if he was happy and our officials were happy there as we see Donnie Sullivan down there on hand here for the weekend, helping out his son Brant. So a really good run right there for Keith Powell as he starts off our Limited Pro Diesel Truck Competition. Take a look at this ride right here. One of the coolest super modified two-wheel drives. Now, this is a 1951 Anglia sedan delivery. And now this truck comes to us out of the state of Idaho. This is Jason Morton. Now this truck for so many years was driven by Frank Welk used to drive this truck out of up there in the Northwest. Now Jason has taken possession of this truck, been pulling for about 9-10 years. But a good looking ride here in super modified two-wheel drive, our second hook here. Super modified two-wheel drive competition. Once again, 575 cubic inches. The max on these trucks, 6,200 pounds. Just like they would run out east or down south or up north. Super modified two-wheel drive rules pretty universal throughout the country as well as up into Canada. So here we go, Jason Morton. Remember Dana Seitzma, she went about 82 feet, had some issues. So Jason Morton's going to set it here. Oh, got off to that left-hand side like a rocket ship. And I would have to say Jason on the brake there, but was not able, had to get out of that throttle, bring it back around. So 256 and 14 here, 256.14 the distance for special delivery. That 51 Anglia right at that point right there decided, hey, this thing wasn't coming back around here. They run the individual rear brakes on these trucks, of course. Front end's up in the air. And take a look at just how violent that was. Yeah, right at that point right there, it brought it back around. So 256.14 as we've got our second hook. This is the Panda truck, Tyler Brownlee. The Panda. Next up here in Limited Pro Diesel Truck Competition, over here on the left side. Good run for the Panda truck down the left-hand side here. And we'll see, did he go better than 322.73 to take over that number one spot? And no, that is the answer right there, 314 and 89 for the Panda here tonight. We see West Coast Diesels. They're representing here tonight. So Tyler Brownlee with the Panda truck. As over on the two-wheel drive side, we should have the Felon truck of Tommy Reedy as we take a look at our leaderboard, 322 and 73. 322 and 73 for the American Addiction leads the way as we will take the Panda truck off the track here tonight. So there we take a look at the Felon Chevy S10 bodied machine. Tommy Reedy. about an hour west of the Boise, Idaho area. Relatively new here to two-wheel drive competition. So super modified two-wheel drives trying to make a return here to the state of California. As some of the Northwest competitors coming down and checking out the action here and filling out the field here for us this weekend. There we take a look at the hook process there. So Tommy Reedy out of Idaho. 256.14, the mark to beat here. Two-wheel drive, 256.14, the mark to beat here. And let's see if the Chevy S10 can do it. Here we go. Oh, man, having a little bit of like we saw, still running here. So we'll see here on the replay there, we see at the hit, opening them throttle plates up. The Felon 268 and 57, so going to be a new leader here. Not sure what happened there. We saw a little bit of smoke, but 268 and 57 here for the Felon truck. Will take over that number one spot here at Super Modified two-wheel drive. So there we see the Felon at 268.57. We'll put the special delivery back to that number two spot at 256 and 14. So, hey, good run there for Tommy Reedy. First time running two-wheel drive this year. As we go back over to Limited Pro Diesel Truck side, as we should have Manuel Vieira. Stay tuned. Our next puller up here. So Manuel Vieira in the Stay Tuned, looks like Chevrolet, on the starting line. Going to go over to that right side here. So I'm kind of working the middle to the left side here, but Manuel says, hey, we're going to go way over here to the right side. See how that's going to work out. Stay tuned. 322.73 is the mark to beat. Oh, yeah, we hear the growl of the Duramax here tonight. Yeah. Stay tuned, and the fans love them here tonight. They love that big Duramax. So 322.73 is what he had to beat. And he'll go 311.78. 311.78, which will put him in that number 3 spot here tonight. Golden State Invitational. The Limited Pro Stock Diesel Truck class here. 322.73, our test puller, the American Diction. And Keith Powell leads the way as we've got Brant Sullivan, formerly out of Warsaw, Kentucky, now makes his home in Hanford, California. Of course, fans remember Hanford, California, the home of the Mello family. And Brant was telling me that Johnny was going to be here this weekend. The old Superfly was going to be on hand. A lot of the old pullers were going to be on hand here this weekend. We heard through the grapevine. So Brant Sullivan going to be our final truck here in Super Modified two-wheel drive competition. Brant has run this truck a couple times here in 2024. Ran it down in Whitewright, Texas. Made an exhibition run or two with this truck at some past events. So we see the boss man, Steve Melanesia, down there looking things over. He's already had a big win in our light mod class, but Let's see if they can get it done here in their two-wheel drive. Brant Sullivan, a little bit light on the nose, but he's going to get the job done here tonight with the Voodoo truck. It's Brant, the 2019 PPL champion on the Champions Tour. Little big Ed Red truck. 3:22 and 17 to run. 3:22 and 17 will put Brant Sullivan into that #1 spot, and we'll take the win here. So Brant Sullivan will be our winner here. So the Felon will finish up in the #2 spot at 268.57. And then a special delivery will be #3 at 256.14 here in the super modified two-wheel drive competition, as we've got Tugging It coming up next here on the Limited Pro side. As they're all still chasing that 3:22 and 73 here tonight. As Steve Kestius and Tugging It, our next puller here in Limited Pro diesel truck competition. 460 cubic inches, one single turbocharger, 3 inches on the inlet side, 8,000 pounds maximum weight. DOT tires, no cutting, no siping allowed on those tires. So here we go, Tugging It. Now he's going to move that sled back over here towards the middle to, just a little bit left of center. So Tugging It here tonight. Here in our Limited Pro diesel truck competition. As we'll get the distance in here for Steve Kestius at 296 and 51. The distance, 296.51 is the distance here. So #4 spot for Tugging It. As we'll put him, we'll put him down in that, on the bottom right now in the #4 spot here. So that will conclude our super modified two-wheel drive class over on the grandstand side. So congratulations, Brant Sullivan, as he will be the big winner here tonight on the two-wheel drive side. Is I don't think we're going to see young Dana making her way back to the starting line. They had some issues on the low-life revenge truck, so hopefully they'll be able to get that fixed and come back tomorrow in competition. Once again, Dan Mayer joining you here from Madera, California, Madera Speedway. We're down here between turns 1 and 2 of the Speedway, as we've got the pulling tracks right in the infield here at Madera Speedway. I think Madera's looks to be about a 1/3 mile or so, maybe 3/8 of a mile. Asphalt track here. There's Kevin Harvick cut his teeth here at Madera. A lot of the other West Coast runners. So we will move along here in our Limited Pro diesel truck competition here, as we should have the Money Muncher making its way to the starting line. This is going to be Trey Smith. As we apologize here with our lineup here tonight, we were supposed to have a lineup with our hometowns and all kinds of goodies, but they never made their way to us. So should hopefully have all that for tomorrow night for session #2 here. Once again, make sure full picks. Get your picks in here before the next classes make their way to the sled. Now over on the grandstand side, looks like we're going to have the country modified trucks are going to be up next over there on the grandstand side. And of course, we're running the Limited Pro diesel trucks 8,000 pound class over here on the infield side. Moving things along here. The Golden State Invitational, 3rd annual event here. bringing all the action to you here on Full Pull Live. Of course, a beautiful day here in the Madera area, just about half hour or so north of Fresno, California. Big raisin country. There we take a look in the hook process here. Good shot there of the DOT street approved tires. Take a look at the low air pressure there in that front tire. Of course, run the dualies on the back. So here comes the Money Muncher. Dodge. All looking for that 322.73. Keith Powell, our test puller. He is still in charge and leading in a big way here. Well, they are working all parts of this track here tonight. Of course, we've measured out to about 350 feet out here. About 40 feet wide, or as wide as your normal two-lane highway. All right, here we go. Money Muncher. Oh, good run here. Went upstairs on the RPMs at the end of his run. But a good run down the right side here for the Money Muncher. Did he go better than 322 and take over that number one spot? No, 320 and 88. So number two here tonight for Trey Smith. A good run. So we'll put the Money Muncher in that number two spot, just 2 feet behind the American Addiction truck of Keith Powell as he dodges another bullet here. So looks like we're ready to go country modified pulling over on the grandstand side. Now this class, 5,500 pounds. The maximum weight of these trucks, they run a cut tire, but it's a little bit smaller cut tire. And 468 cubic inches is the max on these trucks. So basically like the old super stock trucks from years gone by. You might see in the Midwest, more or less, pro stock. Here we go. Oh, uh-oh. Trouble right there. Now, this is the after-hours Ford. This is John Mayfield. And having a little bit of trouble here as our test puller. And we will see here. Yeah, John Mayfield goes 239 and 40. 239 and 40. So these 1974 Ford. So 239 and 40. So we'll be our test puller, and we'll see whether or not he's going to take that run. But not sure exactly what the issue was there, but she lost power on him. The After Hours team has a couple different drivers. As we've got Trevor Massetti. Oh, yes, the Massetti pulling team. We saw their modified four-wheel drive. Now it's time for their Limited Pro diesel truck. We'll also see their twin-engine modified coming out a little bit later on as well. So Trevor Massetti up next here in our Limited Pro diesel truck competition. All chasing that 322.73. So good run there as the Money Muncher team makes their way past us here down at the end of the track. So Trevor Massetti calls this truck all smoked out. Going to be followed by Maxed Out of Money and Jordan Taylor. And then we've got the farm truck. Xander Lee, our big winner from 1 week ago down in Georgia. He has made his way out here to California to defend that championship. All right, here we go. Trevor Massetti. The all smoked out Dodge. There we see our starting line flagman. The red flag's still out here as track crew finishing up their final groom work down here. So over here on the infield track, we're going to run the twin engine modified class will be up next here. That will be over here on the infield side, and then at the conclusion of the country modified four-wheel drives on the grandstand side, we'll have the Super Farm tractors. So those are our next couple classes coming up here. Once again, the Golden State Invitational. A limited amount of entries. It's more or less how you have done throughout the summer, whether or not you're invited to come on down. All right, so we should be sending Trevor Massetti on his way here. All right, so just taking care of some of the holes down there at the end of the track. So Trevor Massetti, green flags are up. Track is clear. Here we go. All smoked out. Got to go better than 322 to 73. 322.73 to take the lead here. Ooh. Went up on the RPMs, and just like that, problems there for Trevor Massetti. And right away the crew underneath the hood. So we'll have another attempt here. He went 149 to 59, so we'll have to wait and see on the officials. Now, last weekend down in Georgia, we saw the 75-foot rule was back in effect, but out here in California, we got the 100-foot rule there. As we see the 100-foot marker down there in our middle between the tracks. As we've got a country modified to run. This is the OCD Lanny Ray, Orange County Dodge. All right, so the Orange County Dodge here tonight, and Lanny Ray. So OCD, the Orange County Dodge, here tonight in our country modified class. Once again, 5,500 pounds on these trucks, 468 cubic inches. As we'll see here on the replay, the Orange County Dodge. Now he's going to set the mark here, I do believe. I think we had 239 and 40 was our earlier mark. I think we are going to eclipse that here by a little bit. Yeah, 258 and 18, so 258.18 will be our new lead distance there over on the country modified side. Lanny Ray. So there you can see our two distances we had here. After hours and OCD country modified trucks. Very popular class out here in the state of California as we go back over limited pro stock diesel truck side. So there you take a look at our next class, the twin engine modified class, and some beautiful, beautiful equipment out here in the state of California. And of course, we got the 4-engine class, which will bring us home here tonight. So there we go. Maxed out of money, Jordan Taylor. Another Dodge here in our limited pro diesel truck competition as we are getting down to it. Just 3 to go here. 3 to go, and all chasing that American Addiction of Keith Powell at 322.73. 322 and 73. There we take a head-on shot. Maxed out of money, the Dodge. So just started our country modified 4-wheel drive class there over on the grandstand side, and finishing up the limited pro diesel trucks here with just a few to go. So great competition we're seeing out here, night number 1 here at the Golden State Invitational here in Madera, California. We apologize, had some technical difficulties here at the beginning of the program, but getting everything sorted out here. Must be the air out here in California, giving us some gremlins. All right, so we see once again the West Coast Diesels on the side of this entry here. Jordan Taylor maxed out of money. We've had the Money Muncher, now we got maxed out of money. Then we finish it off with Mad Cow. All right, let's see if he can bump the flag here. Keith Powell, our leader, and he has done so since the get-go. Maxed out of money, just didn't turn the tires as hard here tonight. As we'll see here on the replay, Jordan Taylor. As we see right about that spot right there, 277.27, 277 and 27 for Jordan Taylor here tonight. Maxed out of money. As we'll go back over the country modified side. So maxed out of money, number 6 spot there in our Limited Pro Diesel Truck side. As we've got Miguel Reyes. Miguel Reyes, the Bad Decisions ride. Talked to Miguel this afternoon, and he says we are ready to go. One of the trucks picked to be a winner here this weekend, Miguel, with his entry here. Looks to be about a 92 or so Chevrolet. Country modified class, like we say, small cubic inch and with smaller tires. Good run right there for Miguel, but he's got some liquid coming out the front of that truck. As we see, kind of about halfway through his run, started putting that liquid down. But I think we're going to have a new leader. Had to go better than 258 and 18, and I think he's done that. But right there you see the, not sure if that's just an overflow or 302.17. Good run for Mr. Reyes, 302 and 17. As he will be our new leader over on the country modified side. 302 and 17. We'll put him at the top of the heap here. The 92 Chevrolet. So we will go back Limited Pro side. Just 2 to go, and you fans that have paid attention here the last couple of events, this truck has been Adam, the farm truck. As Xander Lee out of the Houston, Texas area, Galveston, he calls home. Of course, Xander last Saturday night, the big winner down in Diesels and Dark Corners, the Saturday night session. You run for the belt. And I asked him earlier today, I said, did you bring the belt with you? He said, no, I left it back at home. I'm like, come on, you got to show the belt off. But, of course, the belt we're talking about is the big belt you win down in Diesels and Dark Corners, down there in White Plains, Georgia, the big diesel event. And he came away with the win on Saturday night over 61 other trucks. Just an impressive field of competitors. A 3.0 diesel truck, Limited Pro diesel trucks, and he was the big winner. So when you win that event on Saturday night, they present to you more or less like a wrestling belt. And you carry that until next year. You bring it next year back to the event, and you got to put it up and see if you can defend it. So let's see if Xander can get it done here tonight. Xander Lee out of Texas with the farm truck Dodge. going to be challenging there for that number one spot. We're going to see here in just a minute, but Dad's happy. Dad's giving me the fist pump right now. He had to go better than 3:22.73. And Xander Lee with the farm truck. We wait on the distance here. 3:28.34. We got a new leader. The man from Texas. And he is running that hot streak here out here in California. So Xander Lee going to be our new leader with the farm truck at 3:28.34. We'll put the American Addiction back in the number 2 spot at 3:22.73. So great job there for Xander. But we got one to go here. We still got the Mad Cow to run. As we will back in Kirsten Larson. Now this is an interesting story right here. We're in our country modified class. Kirsten going to do the driving here tonight. Now, this truck is run out of Modesto Junior College, and the students have built this truck. Now, it took them quite a few years to build the truck, but throughout the summer, they'll have about 12 different students will do the driving of this 1959 Ford, 472 cubic inches. Now, that's what they told me, but heard that the cubic inch limit was 468, but we won't say anything about that. But yeah, the student run truck right here. Real cool idea. Do some neat things out here in California. As this is the Mad Professor truck, Kirsten Larson. Now, Kirsten not going to drive tomorrow night. She's only going to drive here tonight. We'll have another student driving the truck tomorrow night. So the 1959 Ford here in our country modified class, 3:02.17, as we've got the Miguel Reyes leading the way here with the Bad Decisions Chevrolet. Here comes the Ford. Come on, Kirsten. All right, young lady did all right tonight. Good job for Kirsten. A little bit short of that 3:02.17 here tonight, but it's going to be challenging there for, number 2 spot. 282.91, 282.91 for the Mad Professor truck. The student-built truck. So park it in that number 2 spot, 282.91 here behind the Bad Decisions. So we got one truck to go over on the Limited Pro side, as we should have the Mad Cow. And it looks like the Mad Cow is hooked up right now, as that's going to be Junior Silvera, as we see the graphics come up here. So final truck here, Xander Lee holding on to that number 1 spot, 3:28.34, looking for back-to-back wins from coast to coast. All right, so Chevrolet here. Oh, he's getting down here. He is getting down here. Going to make this close here. Xander Lee, 3:28.34 with the farm truck, our leader. And let's see what the Mad Cow. Interesting to see where that name came from, but 3:22.83, so good enough for the number 2 spot. So Xander Lee gonna be our winner here tonight. So congratulations. As we'll see here on the replay of the winning run here for Xander Lee, 3:28.34 as he takes the win here from coast to coast. So win Saturday night in Georgia and Friday night out here in California with the big win. What's that? They will, yeah. Yeah, they'll bring it around. So the farm truck takes the win here, 328.34. Mad Cow will finish up number 2, 322.83. American Addiction, our test puller, that was Keith Powell at 322.73. So great class of a limited pro diesel truck. So congratulations to Xander. He's defending that belt pretty good here. And we'll take the win back to Texas, and we'll see if he can do it again tomorrow, as we've got the Advisor truck on our Country Modified side. This is Scott Lane going to be up next here. So Country Modified, the Advisor, Scott Lane, 1967 Ford here. As we work our way through the Country Modified trucks. Over here on the infield side, we're going to have the the twin engine modified class will be up next here. So 3:02:17, the mark to beat here, Country Mod side. All right, the Ford scratching and clawing for everything out there, but looks like going to be a little bit short of that lead distance here tonight. .302:17 is the mark to beat here. Country Modified side. So we will see here the Advisor distance. 67 Ford here, Scott Lane. So the Golden State Invitational here, Madera, California. Just about halfway through our show here tonight. All the action here on Full Pull Live as we see the Advisor at 279.48. Good enough right now for number 3, 279.48. Here in Country Modified four-wheel drive pulling. So there we see our leaderboard, all chasing the bad decisions. 3:02:17, the Chevrolet. Mad Professor Ford sits number 2, 282.91. That's the student run truck. And then the Advisor Ford just parked it in that number 3 spot at 279.48. So great class here is once again Dan Mayer joining you here, Full Pull Live here at the end of the track. Here we're down here between turns 1 and 2 here at Madera Speedway. Here in Madera, California, just outside of Fresno, for the final live pulling event for 2024. We had beautiful weather all day long, and tomorrow's supposed to be up in the high 70s as well. And say down here tonight, going to get a little chilly, about in high 40s they're talking. As Dusty Mincy going to be our final truck here in a Country Modified class. Now they told me this is one to watch. This is the guy that swept it last year with his 78 Dodge. See a lot of old school Dodges out here on the West Coast. Some of the guys were telling me they don't have the humidity, so nothing rots out here in California. So all the old bodies, everything looks pretty good. Actually, Tommy Owens was telling me he found an old Kenworth out in the field somewhere. He looked pretty good, but said he kept on driving. He had thought for a minute about maybe checking on it, but here we go, date night. Dusty Mincy, our final truck here, Country Modified class, 3:02:17. Miguel Reyes leads the way here in our Country Mod class. Talked about earlier, like a super stock or a pro stock class we see out east. Small cubic inch, a little bit smaller tire. tonight. So Dusty Mincy, I don't know, did he do it? 3:02.17 is the mark here. You say he swept the event last year, the second annual Golden State Invitational, won both nights with the date night truck. And I think going to be a little bit short. Yeah, 291 and 58. 291 and 58, but good run for Dusty. As we'll fill out the class here, 291 and 58. So Miguel will be our winner here. With the bad decisions at 3:02.17, we'll put the date night in that number 2 spot as we are ready to go. Twin engine, a modified pulling here. As we have got a great field of mod tractors here, both in the heavy as well as the lighter mods here. Now these tractors here, looks like we've got a half a dozen of them. All been invited here, 7,400 pounds. Now they'll run more or less like the outlaw rules here that we saw a couple weeks ago down in Texas. See a couple of twin Hemis parked side by side here as we will start things off with Max Cackle Jr. This is going to be Blaine Fagundes. Now Blaine has not been, well, he hasn't driven in like 10 years. This is his first time back behind the wheel of a modified tractor. Went sprint car racing for a while. We see Dad helping him out, backing him up here. So our test puller here, modified tractor class, 7,400 pounds. You're only allowed 2 of the Hemis and run 3 of the Chevrolets, but I think all the entries we got here are all going to be the Hemis here tonight. So Max Cackle Jr. going to get us rolling here. Blaine Fagundes, his debut performance here tonight. Good looking ride. Take a look at it. Big 575 cubic inch Hemis parked out next to each other. Here we go. Test puller. Oh, and I think we got a burst panel. I think we got a burst panel there on the left front engine. As Blaine Fagundes right off the tractor there, and we see the crew out making sure. So there we see on the replay. Not sure we had a fuel leak going on right there, but you see right at the base of the injector hat right there. So 275 and 44 the distance here. 275 and 44 for Blaine Fagundes. As we see the fire coming out there on the replay. Yeah, take a look at the pop there. I think that's right when we get the burst panel. Yeah, right there we see blow out. Whew. Man. And you can see that flash fire back, and see that's why all these competitors wear all that safety garb out there. And of course, multi-layer fire suit, the fireproof gloves, the boots, shoes, and Snell-approved helmets, those face shields. All right, so we have the after hours in our country modified four-wheel drive side. The after hours truck come back. That was John Mayfield, the 74 Ford, but unfortunately still got some issues out there. So they gave their second attempt here. Was originally our test puller. So he did turn that run down, came back, but still got some issues there with the after hours Ford. So they'll take that truck back to the pit. So that will officially conclude our country modified class over on the grandstand side. So we'll move on into our Super Farm competition here. 9,300-pound Super Farm tractors. As we see some of the crew members making their way back to the end of the track here tonight, here at the Madera Speedway. Great night for pulling here. Session number 1 here, the Golden State Invitational. So there is our final results there for the Country Modified class, the bad decisions. So congratulations to Miguel Reyes. He will be our winner here tonight. Date Night will finish up number 2. The Mad Professor, the Student Run Truck, will finish up number 3 here tonight. The Advisor, number 4. OCD, 5. And rounding out the field will be the After Hours Ford. So 9,300-pound Super Farms as we see Logan Thomas back up there in the seat of his old sled that he ran for so many years. As we are going back modified side here, as we should have. Next up in our class, going to be the Earth Shaker. This is Anthony Freitas. The Earth Shaker. Our second tractor up here. About 10 miles from home from this guy. And I don't know what it is, but our left front engine's giving us some trouble here early on in this light modified class. We were talking about it. Anthony Freitas here with the Earth Shaker tractor, 10 miles from home. Now, we have talked about that time and time again. You know, the hardest pull to win is the one right down the road from you. And he switched a couple years ago from the stair-step combination. Said he wanted to move them out front there and kind of wanted to run some outlaw pulling there, but unfortunately not the run he was looking for here tonight for Anthony Freitas. As we've got our next tractor coming up here, going to be the twin turbine tractor here in our light mod class. Forgot about the twin turbine. And that's going to be Nick Guriel. Nick Guriel with the twin turbine tractor here tonight. He calls Semper Fi, so he will be up next. So we'll take Anthony Freitas off the track here after his run here tonight. So there's going to be a lot of wrenching going on, especially in the modified pits here and the two-wheel drives as well. We've had some issues. Of course, we talked to Tommy and Dylan Owens before our show started, our countdown to pull time show, and they had mentioned about the air out here in California. You've got to pay attention to the air quality as we hear the turbine making its way out on the track here over on our infield track. And this is going to be Nick Guriel, Semper Fi, a former Marine with twin T58 jet turbines on this tractor. Now these are shaft-driven turbines, they're not jet propulsion. So we'll have a shaft hooked up to the backside of these turbines. Nick says has a great time running this tractor wherever he goes. Calls it Semper Fi. Of course, a former Marine back in the Vietnam era. He was in the Marines. And he says before they'll give him the green flag, he always salutes before he makes his run. So we'll see if he can carry that tradition on here. Give those belts a little bit, singe those belts down, give him a little tight before he makes his run here with the twin turbine. Says right about 2,500 to 3,000 horsepower making out of the twin turbines. Of course, government rated. So here we go. He gives his salute. There it is. Semper Fi. All right. Nice straight run there for Nick Guriel. with Semper Fi here tonight. Nice straight pass there. You see that front end come up and right about where you want it. Transfers that weight back to those rear tires. So right now our lead distance here in the modified class, I think 275.44. We'll wait and see. 269.36 here for Nick with Semper Fi. So yeah, 287, 1-2. Our lead distance 287 and 1-2. The Earth Shaker. And Anthony Freitas, our leader, will put Semper Fi number 3 at 269.36. A good run for the twin turbine here tonight. Again, 6 in the class here tonight as we've got Rutten and Ruthless. Tim Perry, of course, you fans may remember the Perry name in Super Farm action from California. Here they are as, nope, this is going to be Green Energy, they tell us. This is going to be Brett Chipineri, the Green Energy tractor. John Deere 8310, our test puller. 9,300 pound Super Farm tractors here. The Golden State Invitational. 640 cubic inches, 3 inches on the inlet and outlet of the turbocharger. About 1,700 horse when it's all said and done. You see the 24.5-inch wide rear tires. That's a Super Farm. And we've got 7 of them here tonight. Running them out here tonight. Super Farm competition. This is Green Energy. That John Deere 8310 as he will set the mark here. So Brent Chipineri, 3:31 and 58 will be the mark here. 3:31 and 58. And we'll see if our officials are happy with that run here. Sled setting. You know, Brent's going to be happy with that run, but the officials, that's going to be the deciding factor here. So Russ Flippini up next with High Cotton, and then Tony Bauza with the Milk Money, our next 3 in Super Farm. And here comes Kevin Massetti, the whip tractor from right here in Madera, California. There we take a look at the twin Hemis. Now he's got those transverse mounted, sitting sideways out front of this tractor. Got a cross box sitting between them. That'll connect those 2 engines, and then there's a third shaft. I should say the main shaft. They'll come out the back side of that gearbox into the main drive line back to the rear wheels. So the whip tractor, Kevin Massetti. 287.12 is our mark to beat here in our 7,400 pound modified class. So let's see if the hometown tractor can get it done. All right, track is clear. Green flags are out. Here comes the whip. All right, so we are going to move that lead distance marker out a little bit further down the track here. Kevin Massetti with the whip tractor. Going to be our new leader at 3:19 and 68. 3:19 and 68. New lead distance here. Had that weight set just about perfect out there. He's made his way down the track here. So 3:19 and 68. Just like that, about, almost 2/3 of the way done here with our modified class. As we're going back over Super Farm side, the High Cotton tractor. Going to be up next here, Russ Flippini. Boy, really hope we got our pronunciations down here, but here comes High Cotton International. I believe 1466 here, and well, he is pulling off the track in the opposite direction here. Once again, Dan Mayer joining you here at the end of the track here between turns 1 and 2 here at the Madera Speedway for the Golden State Invitational. As we are getting down to it here, moving the show right along here for the fans here in Madera. So we should have the High Cotton tractor coming back a little bit later, they tell us. So he's going to drop here into our class of Super Farm. So the Green Energy tractor of Brent Chipineri, Flippini, Chipineri. We're getting them all here tonight. So we'll move ahead here with the Milk Money tractor. Tony Bausma will be up next here. And then over on the modified side, we should have a guy making his debut performance here tonight. This is the Portuguese Pounder. The Portuguese Pounder tractor. Paul Barcelos. The Portuguese Pounder. Runs a trucking company out there. And 65 trucks on the road as he makes his debut performance here. There we see Brant Sullivan, one of his customers there, and talked to Paul this afternoon. He's ready to go. First time here. Now, 1 year ago, he came to this event, saw his first tractor pull. 1 year later, he's got a modified tractor, and he's ready to pull here tonight. So, Paul Barcelos here in modified class. Beautiful tractor. It's Portuguese Pounder. Of course, Barcelos, the Portuguese. Of course, the former Craig Corzine tractor from out there in Illinois. Craig and Ashley running the tractor for a bunch of years. Sent it down the road out here to west of California. So Paul Barcelos out here in modified competition. 3:19.68. Our mark to beat here is Kevin Bassetti took over that number 1 spot with the whip tractor with 2 to go here. Now we've got a couple tough ones here. We got the Italian Stallion, Steve Melanesia. We saw him win the light mod class. He's out for blood here tonight. He wants to take the mod class as well, but looks like we're going to go super farming first, as we've got Tony Bausma here with the Milk Money tractor. All right, so John Deere, 60-30 here in our Super Farm class here. So we jumped ahead. We'll have the High Cotton dropping in the class. He's going to come back a little bit later. So Milk Money and Tony Souza here tonight as we're ready to go here with Paul Barcelos. The Portuguese Pounder, his maiden voyage here in modifieds. Let's see if he can do it. first run on the tractor. I'd have to say he's going to be well satisfied with that run right there, boy. First time behind the wheel of about 6,000 horsepower as we see the run here for Tony Souza at 295.94. 295 and 94 here. For Tony Souza, put him in that number 2 spot. But yet, Paul Barcelos here, maiden voyage, brand new tractor, and we'll put him into that number 2 spot. So they're 276.07, 276.07 for Paul Barcelos here tonight. Good run, maiden voyage here for the Portuguese Pounder. Put him in that number 3 spot, so not too bad as he makes his first ever run in modified competition. And no doubt got a big smile on his face, but all chasing the whip here. Kevin Massetti with 1 to go as we will have our final tractor here in competition here in our modified class. And we talked about it earlier, the Italian Stallion, Mr. Steve Milanesia, as we've got the planter tractor, John Deere 5020 Super Farm side. Going to be Kyle Brock up next here. He'll be followed by Craig Souza with the Prime Shine tractor. We've got Rutten and Ruthless, Tim Perry, and Smoking Crow of Matt Crow down here at the bottom of the field. And we also will have the High Cotton of Russ Flippini coming back a little bit later on. So good run right there. Uh-oh, we got the grinder out. Grinder onto our hook out there. And Super Farm competition is we'll have the planter tractor and Kyle Brock making his way to the starting line here, the John Deere 5020. All chasing at 331 distance there, 331 and 58. Green Energy and Brent Chipineri is our leader. Green Energy. So once again, session number 1 here, Madera, California, the Golden State Invitational. As we see the shot there, head-on shot, Kyle Brock, the planter tractor, John Deere here at Super Farm. Talking to Brant Sullivan earlier, he said this is more or less the biggest of the diesel classes they've got out in the state of California. As far as diesel tractors go, the Super Farm class. So 1 to go, the Italian Stallion in the modified class. And this is going to be good to see if he can bump the flag here. So the planter tractor here, Kyle Brock. Got to go better than 331.58. Green Energy, he's way out there. Brett Chipineri, our current leader. Whoa, look out. Oh, he stayed after it. Man, right at the start there. Saw that tractor looking at nothing but sky, but Kyle doing a great job of driving. See here on the replay, take a look at this one. Way up on the wheelie bars right there, slammed that front end down, but then she settled back in here. And the planter tractor makes a nice run here. here in Super Farm. 299.20, good enough for number 2 right now. So good run there for Kyle Brock, as we have got the Italian Stallion right now making its way to the starting line. Steve Melanesia. We saw him win the light class earlier, the single engine class, and now comes out with his twin engine tractor. See Brant Sullivan backing him in here. The Italian Stallion, not Rocky Balboa, but Steve Melanesia. Big time involved in the sport of pulling here. So let's see if he can bump the flag here in our class. The last tractor in our 7,400-pound mod class. Steve Melanesia. Shop's about a half hour or so south of here. 319.68. 319.68 is the mark to beat here. 319.68. These tractors have battled it out all summer long here, and we got some issues going on. Maybe one of the getting that second engine to fire. There it goes. So runs that stair-step combination. Got the front engine facing forward, the back engine facing backward. They both each have a clutch. They'll hook into the drop box down to the main drive line. Definitely having some issues with this tractor getting it into gear. All right, looks like we got it all set. Here we go. The Italian Stallion, final tractor here in mod, here tonight, light mod. On the equipment here tonight, Steve Melanesia, the Italian Stallion. But did he go far enough? He was over against that left-hand chalk line, or right-hand chalk line. And we'll see here, 319.68, the mark to beat. He goes, 317.57. So Kevin Massetti going to be our winner here tonight in our modified class. What a great show the mods put on here tonight. 317.57 for the Italian Stallion. So congratulations, Kevin Massetti, the winner here tonight in our 7,400 pound mod class here tonight. As we go back Super Farm side, as we've got Prime Shine, Craig Souza, International 1066. Here we go. Man, what a show we saw on the modified side. Good run there for Craig Souza over on the Super Farm side, but modified tractors putting on a show here. 289.02 for Craig Souza with the Prime Shine. 289.02. As there we take a look. Well, we'll take a look back here at the Prime Shine. International makes his run here tonight. So Steve Melanesia will finish up in that number 2 spot here in our modified class here tonight. So there we see Kevin Massetti, our winner here tonight with the whip at 319, just 2 feet ahead of the Italian Stallion. Earthshaker will finish up number 3. The Portuguese Pounder, first time out with that tractor, he'll finish up number 4. Max Cackle, another tractor making its debut, finishes up number 5. And Semper Fi, the twin turbine will round out the finishers here in our 7,400-pound modified class. So here we see the winning run for Kevin Massetti with the whip tractor up against the, well, a little bit off that right sideline a little bit, but we saw the Italian Stallion tractor there. Steve Melanesia was right up against it there. We're going to need the loader here to get him off the track here tonight, as we'll get the Italian Stallion tractor off the end of the track. So just a reminder, fans, full pull picks. Make sure you do get your picks in here before the next class coming up over here on the grandstand side. Going to be the Pro Stock diesel trucks here tonight. They'll be followed by the 6,000-pound Super Stock trucks. Will be our final class of competition here tonight over on the grandstand side. Then over on the, or I should say the infield side, then over on the grandstand side we'll have, at the conclusion of the Super Farms, we will have the heavy mods. The 4-engine modified class will take us home over there on the grandstand side. So we get the Italian Stallion tractor off, and we got some. All right, so just buried down in the ruts there a little bit for the Italian Stallion tractor as they pull them off the track here tonight. So Tim Perry going to be up next here, Rutten and Ruthless over on our Super Farm side. Got a couple more tractors to go here, 3 to go in our Super Farm class as we see the John Deere 6030R. This is the tractor, ran out east quite a bit last couple years. Did not see it at all. Memory serves me, did not see it out this past summer, but Tim Perry, Rutten and Ruthless tractor up next here. Matt Crow with the Smokin' Crow, going to be our second to last runner, and then we've got the High Cotton tractor of Russ Flippini. If he can come on back here, he does have another attempt, so we saw him hooked up there to the start line area having some issues. So all still chasing that green energy. Brett Chipineri at John Deere 8310, 331.58 right now is the mark to beat in Super Farm, and he has led the whole way here so far. So Rutten and Ruthless on the starting line. Super Farm class. Here comes Tim Perry. Kind of back and forth here. This is going to be close. This is going to be close here to that green energy. And Brett Chipineri, 331 and 58 here. And just shy, 327.85. Good run for Tim Perry here tonight. Good run at 327.85. We'll put him in that number 2 spot. 9,300-pound Super Farm class here tonight. As we move things along here. So 327.85 for Rutten and Ruthless here tonight for Tim Perry. Planner tractor sits in that number 3 spot, Milk Money 4. Once again, Dan Mayer down here at the end of the track here at the Madera Speedway. As things start to get a little chilly here. We're down here in the, we were in the high 40s when about an hour or so ago, and I think we're plummeting a little bit more, but starting to wind things down. We got just 2 more of the Super Farms to run, and then we've got the 8 of the heavy modified tractors, 8,000-pound mods, the 4-engine tractors. And then over here on the infield side, we've got the Pro Stock diesel trucks and the 6,000-pound Super Stock trucks. So there we see the West Coast Diesel sponsored ride here. As this is going to be Tom Wallace Our first puller up here in the Pro Stock diesel truck class. Now these are the 3.6 trucks. We saw them last weekend down in Diesels and Dark Corners. So West Coast Diesels, Tom Wallace to get us started here. See, they run the cut tires. Very popular class. See out on the PPL, the Silver Series. Run them also with the ITPA circuit up in the Badger State Pullers as well. In Pennsylvania as well. So West Coast Diesel, Dodge, get us started here in our Pro Stock diesel truck class. Now they'll run at 8,000 pounds. All right, I got my reinforcements here. I got my coat. Battery powered coat. We're going to give it a shot here. All right, here we go. West Coast Diesels. All right, so once again, this is the Pro Stock diesel truck class, the 3.6 class. So West Coast Diesels gets us started here. Tom Wallace. Got a handful of the Pro Stock trucks here tonight. See the cut tires. So we'll set the mark here at 237 and 69, 237 and 69 to get us rolling. And we'll see whether or not he was satisfied with that one as we bounce it back over on the Super Farm side. Smoking Crow, Matt Crow. If memory serves me right, Crow's Landing, California. So the International Smoking Crow, good running tractor right here. See this tractor from a time or two out east. All chasing that 331.58. That's what it's going to take. Oh, wheels up. Got her going. Oh. Good run right there. Matt Crow and the Smoking Crow here in Super Farm. 3:18.06 on the wheelie bars at the go. And he was hauling the mail. Take a look at that. But going to come up a little bit short there to the John Deere here tonight. At 331.58, leading the way here. Green Energy. Smoking Crow will put him in the number 3 spot. 3:18.06. 3:18.06 here tonight for Smoking Crow. So we are down to one as we bring out the Sloppy Seconds truck in our Pro Stock class. Once again, the Dodge. So going to be Kyle Messerly here in the Sloppy Seconds Dodge. Our next puller up here in Pro Stock competition. We'll wait and see whether or not we're going to see the West Coast Diesels truck coming back. And that is his option here as test puller. So he went 237 and 69 to get us started here. 237 and 69. So Kyle Messerly and the Sloppy Seconds Dodge. So it looks like we do have our final Super Farm making its way out on the track here. So we were wondering if he was going to be able to make it back, and yes, he has. So we will have the high cotton tractor. Russ Filippini. All right, track is clear. Pro Stock diesel trucks, 237.69. The mark to beat here. Pro Stock trucks having some issues out here getting a hold of the track here tonight. So 171 and 63, 171 and 63 for Kyle Messerly, as they are having some issues here in our Pro Stock class here tonight. So here we go with the high cotton, Russ Filippini. Really getting an education on the Italian names here tonight. Russ Filippini, high cotton. So has another one attempt, I do believe. He did hook to the sled there. International 1466 here. So final tractor in our 9,300-pound Super Farm class here tonight. Green Energy has led the whole way here. Brent Chipineri. So it looks like we got some drivetrain issues here on the sloppy seconds Dodge. We just saw make his run out there. So crew checking out underneath the front end of the truck. So back over here to the high cotton tractor. International 1466. So at the conclusion here of the Super Farm class, going to load the wagon, get ready for our heavy modified tractors here tonight. 8 tractors in competition, and we've got them from here from California, we got them from Washington, we got them from New York State. So going to be a great show of power here tonight as we will finish off pulling over on our grandstand track here tonight with the heavy mod class. But first things first, we got to finish up the Super Farms. As Russ Filippini sits there on the starting line with the high cotton, and the green flags are out. Here we go. All right, he's got it this time. Yeah, not sure what the issue was first time around, but he definitely had it going this time. As we see take a look underneath the front end of that tractor, the skid bars. Of course, to prevent the vehicle from slamming down, breaking those front tires off. 292 and 88 the distance. 292 and 88 the distance for Russ Filippini here tonight with the high cotton International 1466. So that will finish us off here in our Super Farm competition here tonight. So congratulations, the Green Energy team, as we see the hammer down Ford on the starting line here. Pro Stock diesel truck competition, the 3-6 trucks. Jim Mulrooney, hammer down. These trucks run at 8,000 pounds. We see them out east. They run normally about 7,800 pounds, but out here they're running 8,000. And a good run right there, hammered down. I think we're going to have ourselves a new leader, and it's a Ford. F-O-R-D here tonight. 237.69 was our mark to beat. And yeah, he's going to eclipse that quite a bit here. 269 and 71. New leader, 269 and 71. Jim Mulrooney will be our new leader with the Ford here in Pro Stock diesel truck competition. So two left to go here. The Smokin' Max and American Contender, our two final trucks here. Then we'll have the Super Stock trucks. As there we take a look at the winning run over on the Super Farm side. Brent Chipineri, the Green Energy at 3:31 and 58. Great job here tonight as he takes that win as our test puller and held on through the entire class. Jim Mulrooney, new leader over on the Pro Stock truck side, is going to continue to add some more weight over there on the modified side. 4-engine modified class coming up next here as we see Logan Thomas out here in California, the man from Silk Hope, North Carolina, out here running his old sled. There's the old red Decision Maker sled. Once again, Dan Mayer here at the end of the track, and we've got our reinforcements. We got the heavier coat, battery powered, they tell me, but doesn't have any batteries in it, so it got a heater in here, but it'll do just fine as we finish out the Golden State Invitational session number 1 here as we get ready to go modified pulling. And we've talked about it here, just a great class of modifieds here tonight. As over on the Pro Stock side, we should have going to be the Smokin' Max tractor. Going to be Everett Powell. Nope. This is the American Contender. So Everett Powell. Going to skip over the Smokin' Max truck. John Estevez, not sure if he is here this weekend, but nonetheless, we've skipped over him. So American Contender Dodge going after the hammer down. We just saw the Ford take the lead here in our Pro Stock class. A couple of the earlier trucks, we saw the West Coast Diesels, and the sloppy seconds have some issues out here. Uh-oh. All right, they're hooking up my coat to battery power here. Milwaukee coat. Here we go, American Contender. Nope. Whoa, waited a long time. Waited a long time there. Everett Powell getting after it here. And we'll see on the replay here. Had to go better than 269.71 to take the lead here And Everett Powell looking down over at the sideline whether or not, hey, did I take over the... No. 261.02. 261.02 for Everett Powell here in our pro stock class. So we'll see if the Smokin' Max, John Estevez, be able to make his way out here on the track. If not, our win will go to the Ford here tonight. And we'll see here in just a minute. So our pro stock diesel trucks, the 3.6 class, 261 and 02 for Everett Powell, 261 and 02 for the American Contender truck. 269.71 hammer down the Ford. And we will see whether or not we will see Smokin' Max here tonight. Otherwise, we're going to go into our final class over on the infield side, which will be the super stock trucks, 6,000 pound super stock trucks. And, what an interesting array of trucks they got down there. We've got 5 of those, and we've got 8 of the big mods. As we see some of the tractors down there, we see the War Wagon tractor going to be our test puller. Here I've got my battery-powered Milwaukee coat on here, but the battery not working here tonight. But hey, this is coat's working good. Plug a battery into it and good to go. So make sure you do get your picks in, full pull picks. The big modified class, and got some head-to-head picks. I know the Tommy Owens and his son Dylan are on there. You can pick who's going to be the best head-to-head of those 2 picks. And we do have a couple of the other tractors on there as well. So make sure you do head on over to Full Pull Picks. And get those in before they start up here with the modified class. As we take a look at our test puller in the modified class, going to be Gary Seitzma with the War Wagon tractor. And yes, you longtime pulling fans, that is the old War Wagon of Paul Norman, Charlotte, North Carolina. They've updated the chassis quite a bit, but it's made a long travel from Billy Beers out in New York down into Texas. They purchased it from a gentleman down in Texas, ran it with a single engine on the tractor, and they brought it up to the eastern side of Washington State. And Mr. Seitzma has been running it for the last couple of years. Now here this weekend, they got an 8,000 pound class. You're allowed 4 of the Hemis in this class. So Gary going to be our test puller. He'll be followed by Tommy Owens with the Ramblin' Rose out of Montgomery, New York. So that'll be our first 2 modifieds coming up here in our heavy mod class here tonight. You see the Angler Machine and Tool sticker on the side there. Of course, Tim built this War Wagon tractor back many, many years ago. So we see Tommy Owens, Modern Machine on the side of that one. So this is going to be a war here in the mod class here tonight. A great field of tractors as they still continue to load the wagon here. So I would have to say officially that is going to be it over on the Pro Stock Diesel truck side. So we're not going to see the final truck, the Smokin' Max, here tonight. We take a look at Tommy Owens driving 3,000 miles to get out here to sunny Southern California. Well, not Southern California. We're kind of middle California here, more northern than south. But kind of had to take a detour. They had quite a bit of snow out in the mountains, so had to head on back south, make it around all the snow through the mountains. So our 2 final classes here, Golden State Invitational here in Madera, California. As here we go, super stock truck, 6,000 pound super stock trucks pulling out. Going to be our first entry here. And it's a Ford. Fords have done very well here tonight. Greg McCullough going to be our first puller up here. And of course, McCullough, Ed the Ace from right over in Fresno, but spelled a little bit different. Pulling out, going to be our test puller here, Greg McCullough. And the pulling out Ford. He'll be followed by Clay Hubble. As we hear in the background, the first of our modified tractors firing up the 4-engine class. Fans at home, you want to stay tuned. This is going to be a good one. As we're just about ready to start our 6,000-pound super stock truck class here tonight. DOT tires on them. Here we go. All right, so we'll start it off here. Greg McCullough pulling out 293, 92, 293, and 92 here is we'll see whether or not he's going to take that run. Boy, I saw it had a Redman TNT sticker on the side of that. That takes you back. So here we go. Gary Seitzma with the War Wagon out of Eastern Washington State. 4 blown and injected Hemis on this tractor. Going to be our test puller. 8,000 pounds they are going to run at. And we've got 8 of the top tractors, well, here on the West Coast and on the East Coast for that matter. We saw Gary's daughter a little bit out earlier in the 2-wheel drive class. She had some issues with her tractor. All right, here we go. War Wagon out of Washington. Logan Thomas putting the weight to him here tonight. Here in our modified class. So Gary Seitzma, the War Wagon, going to set the mark here at 250 and 21. 250 and 21. And we see on Gary's run there, had the weight set just about perfect there. So 250 and 21 will get us rolling here. Clay Hubble will be up next here in our super stock class with the old GMC, square body GMC here. Ford leads the way. Greg McCullough with the pulling out Ford entry. There we take a look at the DOT street approved tires. So 250 and 21 over on the modified side as we get ready to go here. Super Stock GMC and Clay Hubble, our second hook here out of the 5, our 6,000-pound Super Stock truck class here tonight. Clay Hubble shimmying and shaking out here. As we'll see here on the replay now, 282.15, number 2 spot for Clay. Number 2 at 282.15. So we'll put him in the number 2 spot. The Ford still leads the way here. As we see our second hook in the modified class, Tommy Owens, the Ramblin' Rose. Got the 3 of the blown and injected Hemis out there, and it runs the larger superchargers. Now, if you run the 4 Hemis, you got to run the smaller superchargers, the 871s. The Ramblin' Rose got the big 1471s. Take a look how long those superchargers are, sitting laid back, and looks like got a little bit of fuel dripping there out the left front tank there of the Ramblin' Rose. Of course, Tommy Owens, a second-generation puller. His dad, Ted Owens, started back in about mid-70s, about 75 or so, running the Ramblin' Rose name. There's his son Dylan out front. So right now the mark to beat here, 250 and 21. 250 and 21. Of course, 3,000 miles from home here tonight, the Ramblin' Rose team. About an hour outside of New York City, out there in Orange County, New York, just off I-84. All right, working that right side of the track. Let's see the Ramblin' Rose can get it done here tonight. 250.21 is what he's got to beat. All right, so yeah, I think we're going to have a new leader here. 284 and 6, 284.06 for Tommy Owens. The Ramblin' Rose going to be our new leader, 284.06. Here we go, flat broke Sherry Benson. Oh, shimmy and shaking. We saw some sparks come out the front end there. Flat broke here in our super stock class with the flatbed. 288 and 1, 288.10. And we'll put Sherry Benson in the number 2 spot here. So 288.10 for Sherry Benson. So Tommy Owens, our leader, as we see 293.92, the mark to beat, 293 and 92 over on the super stock truck side with a couple trucks to go. The Ford pulling out. Greg McCullough, our leader, at 293 and 92. We'll put flat broke number 2 at 288.10. All right, so we see next up there in our modified class. There we see Scott Tedder down there working for the Moore team. Of course, Scott out of Hartford City, Indiana, more or less working as the crew chief on the Kevin Moore tractors here this weekend. So Tommy Owens, our new leader in the modified class, 284.06. As we've got Kevin Moore with the Renegade up next here in our modified class. All right, so transverse mounted engines on the Renegade tractor. Now this Renegade tractor, fans may remember the old Shell Shock Shelton family out of New London, North Carolina. This one here, the Shell Shock. His other tractor, the Shakedown, will be the old Ruckus for those keeping score at home. Kevin Moore up next here. Kevin's driven mini rods. He's driven four-wheel drive trucks before, and they've got some interesting vehicles that they have campaigned over the years involved with the road racing circuit. Got a Lamborghini they run. Very big in the commercial real estate as well as artificial turf. Do artificial turf for some of the big stadiums. See both of his tractors sitting right there, the Renegade and the Shakedown. But we're going back over here. We've got Super Stock truck side. We got Travis McCullough putting in. And I don't know what in the world we're looking at right here. We got an old military, maybe an old. They pull everything here in California. The putting in here. Some kind of military, maybe a Dodge. I don't know. I don't know my military vehicles too well, but 274.02 here for Travis McCullough. Travis McCullough putting in at 274.02 in our super stock class, as we'll bounce things over to the modified side, the Renegade, and Chris Moore, Kevin Moore. First of his two entries here tonight. Transverse mounted engines. You see that cross box sitting between them? That cross box made so famous by Tim Engler so many years ago. And so Kevin Moore, first of his two entries. He'll be followed in our lineup here. Jeremy Beese with the Max Cackle, and then Jared Britsky with the Swiss Power tractor. Our next two tractors coming up here following the Renegade. Once again, Mark B, 284.06. So yeah, these modifieds got to really work at it here tonight. The heavy sled. Kevin Moore with the Renegade. So 284.06 the lead distance here, as Kevin Moore goes 256.83. 256.83 for the Renegade, as that will put him in the number 2 spot. He'll take over number 2 here in our lineup. So Tommy Owens, the Ramblin' Rose, leads the way at 284.06. The Renegade will put number 2, and then the War Wagon, number 3, at 250.21 here tonight. So over here on the super stock side, well, they just keep throwing the Italian names at me. Lamaducci and Kenny Biscaglia. Say that fast 3 times. Going to be our final truck here in super stock. The Ford leading the way here. Greg McCulloch at 293.92, 293.92. So Lamaducci, our final truck here in Super Stock. Good looking ride here, the Chevrolet. The heartbeat of America. Don't see that too often. All right, Lamaducci. Like I said, the heartbeat of America. Boy, that takes you back. So Kenny Biscaglia, 296.76, our winner here tonight, Super Stock class. So came out, final hook in the class, and the Chevrolet gets it done, 296.76. And he knew it, yeah, sitting in the cab there. So we'll put the pulling out number 2 at 293.92, and then Flatbrook will fill out the top 3 here tonight. So congratulations to Kenny Biscaglia. He will be our winner in our Super Stock class here tonight. As we see back to the modified pit. So we got a couple, well, about half the mods to run here. We're finished up over here on the infield side. So we got our big modified still to run here. So congratulations, Super Stock side. Our Super Stock truck class here tonight. Kenny Biscaglia, our winner. As we should have in the modified class, we should have the Max Cackle, Jeremy Beese. Of course, the Fagundes team run the Max Cackle name for a bunch of years. Then we've got Jared Bridgke with the Swiss Power tractor. Get her done, Jeremy Correa. We've got the Shakedown, Kevin Moore's second tractor, and then the Thorn, Dylan Owens. That will be our final tractor of the night in the modified class. So lots of mods yet to go here. All chasing at 284.06. Tom Owens with the Ramblin' Rose. So Max Cackle making its way up to the start line here. Once again, transverse mounted engines. So going to spot that sled way over here to the right-hand side once again. All trying to get past that 284.06. Here we see the Central Valley Heavy Transport, the heavy haulers. That's what the Fagundes family, that's what they do. All right, slack out of the chain. Here we go. Max Cackle, 284.06. The mark to beat here. 284.06. And an excellent run right there for Max Cackle. The big question, did he go far enough? Kind of hard to tell here. So yeah, that tractor running real strong here tonight. Take a look here at the start there. Saw a little bit of raw alcohol, but then kind of cleaned out here. 238.40. Wow, kind of surprised by that. 238.40. will put the Max Tackle tractor back in the number 4 spot here. So 238.40 as we'll have a Swiss Power coming up next here. Going to be Jared Bridgkey with the Swiss Power. Well, we've got a whole group down here at the end of the track. Everybody's trying to keep warm down here at the end of the track. I've seen somebody walk by with a t-shirt on a little bit earlier, but as we're down in the 40s here in Madera, California, here for the Golden State Invitational, as we're finishing things out here in the modified class, as the Swiss Power tractor for Hemis will be up next. Tractor that's kind of been away from the sport about a year and a half or so, and finally got it back together. So good to see Jared out here tonight with the Swiss Power. And we'll have the getter done, Jeremy Correa, from right down the road, not too far down, right around Hanford. Shakedown, Kevin Moore, and then Dylan Owens, our final tractor here. So 4 to go, 4 down, 4 to go here, night number 1. The Golden State Invitational. Again, fans, make sure you join us tomorrow afternoon, 4 o'clock, for the Countdown to Pull Time show. And then we'll have session number 2 right at 6 o'clock. That'll be 6 o'clock West Coast time. Be, 9 o'clock East, 8 o'clock Central. Just keeping this program moving right through here tonight. So we saw some great pulling here tonight, and we are not done yet. As we'll see if the Owens family, right now sitting in the catbird seat at 284.06, Dad Tom with the Ramblin' Rose. Now son Dylan, he'll have the 4-engine combination. They're trying some different things on their tractors. Had a different cut on the tires on Dylan's tractor here tonight. So we hear the Swiss Power fired up in the staging lanes as Jared will bring it to the starting line. So Jared Bridgkey and the Swiss Power tractor. There we take a look at Jared. I asked him where the name, the Swiss Power, comes from, and well, you can see what a last name like that. But he said a lot of the family members are Swiss, so he says, hey, we just went with the Swiss Power name. And see, on this combination here, got the 2 front engines facing forward, the back 2 facing Jared in the seat. All connect to the main gearbox right in the center right there. So a lot of different combinations. You see it in the mod class. We saw the transverse mounted engines. All facing one direction. You name it. We're seeing it here tonight. Jared having a little bit of issue getting that tractor into gear, possibly. All right, here we go. Slack out of the chain for sure. We are ready to go. Swiss Power here tonight. And did not want to see that there for Jared, as I think we saw some parts and pieces come out the bottom of that right rear engine. We'll see here on the replay, right at the hit of the throttle. Well, we saw a blow-by tube. Okay. Yeah, maybe it was just some dirt came flying out from underneath there, but we see the blow-by tube blow off. But other than that, didn't see possibly got a blower belt there on that right rear engine. But, well, the other engines are still driving off the track here, so 120 and 18. 120 and 18 as Jared makes his way past us down here at the end of the track here. Located down here between turns 1 and 2 here at the Madera Speedway. So we'll put the Swiss Power in that number 5 spot at 120.18. So Jeremy Correa will be up next. The Get Her Done tractor. Coming up from Hanford, California. As we saw this tractor a few years back running on the Lucas Oil, the Champions Tour with PPL. Back a few years ago. Ran with 4 Hemis back then, and talked to Dad Clarence this afternoon. He says, yeah, we've gone with the 3-engine setup. He says that's worked out for us pretty good. Now, had some really good runs with it. As you can see, the 3-engine setup, just like we saw with our current leader, Tommy Owens, the Ramblin' Rose. All right, so there we see Dad Clarence going to fire up the Get Her Done tractor. The Correa family. Going to be followed by the shakedown of Kevin Moore and then Dylan Owens, the Thorn, our final tractor. All right, so the 3-engine setup here is Jeremy Correa. Brings it up here to the starting line. Was telling Clarence this afternoon, the last time I saw him was in Wheatland, Missouri a couple years back, and that particular weekend when he left Missouri, he was bringing back a goat and a horse with him, a mini horse, back in his pulling trailer. Kind of guy Clarence. Here we go. We had a lot going on there with Jeremy's run. I think we lost the supercharger there on that left front engine. He stayed after it here. Here we see on the replay right at the start there. And yeah, we saw the first panel out of that left front engine. He stayed after it. And there we'll see the pop there from the burst panel. Yeah, right at the start there. Saw we were shooting some ducks there out of that right front engine. And there we saw the burst panel right there on that left front engine. So yeah, it was trouble right from the start there for Jeremy Correa tonight with the Get Her Done. So 2 left to go here. Session number 1 here. The Golden State Invitational. So we'll put get her done in that number 5 spot, 219 and 74. Once again, Tommy Owens, Ramblin' Rose leading the way at 284.06. As we should have Kevin Moore back with his second tractor, the Shakedown. As we see Coach Scott Tedder down there, going to give some final instructions. Of course, we saw Scott a couple weeks back down at the North Carolina State Fair. He swept the weekend there for the modified class. Scott himself, a second-generation puller. His dad, Big Jack Tedder, back in the day, running that stair-step combination on his tractor. So 2 left to go here in night number 1 here as we'll finish things off. Track crew finishing up their groom work on the starting line area. Here these modifieds are pretty tough on the starting line area, so they wanted to take a little bit of extra time, put that starting line back together. And we will fire up the Shakedown tractor. So great night of pulling here. We've winded things down. 13 classes here for the Golden State Invitational. So the biggest class we saw here tonight was the Pro Modified class. They had 11 entries here tonight. And Brian Massetti was telling us that they invited so many trucks because they had so many trucks running on the circuit that ran the whole circuit with them, so they felt it was only appropriate to invite everybody to run in the modified class. So we will fire up the Shakedown tractor. Kevin Moore. All right, fire up engine number 2 there. Starter over there to engine number 3 until we get all 4 of them fired up. Uh-oh. We see that number 3 engine did not fire. So they're going to crank it over here. So right now 2 of the 4 running. So number 3 comes to life. They'll crank over engine number 4 here, hook the starter back up to it and see if they can get it back up and going. Quite the process. Get all 4 of these big blown-in injected Hemis fired up, and there we go. So engine number 4 has come to life. So about 2,500 horse apiece. Looking at about 10,000 horsepower right here. As we see the Shakedown make its way to the starting line. Kevin Moore. Now we saw his first tractor, the Renegade, at about 256 or so. crewmen coming in, spraying in some de-icer, the ejector hats onto those ejector blades. We're going to work that left side of the track here. As we saw the chalk. We see him cranking on the wheel, making sure you see those small airplane tires out front. All right, here we go. Slack out of the chain. Shakedown. Kevin Moore. Up against that right-hand chalk line, digging down in. So he'll get it shut down here. We'll see what the distance comes up here for Kevin Moore. We see over there on the left side of the track, and then just all of a sudden shot over here to the right side. Brought it back around 240 in 22, but not sure right there kept it in bounds or not. 240.22. So right now the Owens team sitting in a good spot here. And on the break right there, so 240.22 puts him in the number 4 spot here. So Ramblin' Rose, the Renegades, it's number 2, in the War Wagon, rounding out our top 3 right now. With 1 to go, Dylan Owens with Thorn Tractor. Now this was the tractor they had some issues with here, as we see the group is kind of multiplying down here at the end of the track. Some of the modified competitors. So yeah, the Thorn Tractor here, Dylan Owens, the tractor that had some mechanical issues early part of the season, but Tom and crew had said, yeah, they've got the issue sorted out on it. So 1 to go here as Dylan Owens brings out the Thorn Tractor, our final modified of the night, final hook here of the night. The Hardy crowd here at Madera Speedway hanging in there in the grandstands. All seeing if son can beat dad here tonight. And if you pick that here in full pull picks, you're going to be a big winner here tonight. But I don't know, dad's pretty crafty. So there we take a look down the ejector hats there. Tom Owens, fire up son Dylan. Of course, the Thorn Tractor got some graphics on it here for this weekend. They've gotten away from the duct tape. And we see Brian McDonald helping out as well down there. Just can't keep a good puller away. Helping get this tractor fired up here. So Dylan Owens will be our final hook here. Dad sits out number 1 at 284.06. That is the magic mark here in our modified class here tonight. So once again, 3,000 miles to get these modified tractors out here. Dad Tom drove the truck out. Dylan, he flew in like I did yesterday afternoon. course, we talked about it earlier. Dylan, a third-generation puller. Montgomery, New York. With the break it had this past summer, didn't really run anywhere for points, either the NTPA or the PPL circuit. Take a look here where the sled spotted. Looks like pretty well over to the right side once again here. Maybe a little more towards the middle part. All right, here we go. Final tractor of the night, the Thorn Dylan Owens. Son beat dad here tonight. Had to go better than 284.06 to take the win. Dylan on it. No, 257.03. So dad will take the win here tonight in our modified class. Dylan will finish up number 2. Heavy sled here tonight, 284.06. Tommy Owens takes the win. The Thorn, Dylan will finish up number 2, 257.03. The Renegade will finish up number 3. That was Kevin Moore. Number 4 will be the War Wagon. And number 5, the Shakedown of Kevin Moore will round out our top 5 here tonight. So that will conclude tonight's program here from Madera, California. So congratulations, Tommy Owens. At 3,000 miles to get out here, and he's a winner here tonight in our modified class, our heavy modified class here tonight, as that will conclude a great night of pulling here. And once again, Dan Mayer down here at the end of the track here in Madera Speedway here in Madera, California, as that will conclude our first night of competition here. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock Western time for our Countdown to Pull Time show, and then we will have our second session. We'll go right at 6 o'clock Western time here tomorrow night, as we will conclude the Golden State Invitational. So once again, for all our folks working behind the scenes here tonight, I'm Dan Mayer, your announcer for this evening's competition, and we will sign off, and we will see you tomorrow night for session number 2. Good night, everybody.